everyone, and welcome back to Book Talk with Kara. Today, I am delighted to have Shelia Roberts join me. And Shelia, this is so much fun because you are a multi-published. You've got over 50 books out. You've hit so many lists. I feel like I am with a superstar in the writing world. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, you're not too shabby yourself here, there, girl. I'm looking at all the books you've got out, and you are just working it, and international travel and conferences. And, isn't it a busy life when you're a writer? We were just talking about that before we started recording, how sometimes it's like, it'd be nice to actually get some writing done. But
yeah, it really is true.
I love this part of the writing business. I actually do love talking, and actually the best tone muscle in my body happens to be my mouth. And so I really enjoy getting a chance to visit and talk with readers and other writers. And so this is a fun part of the business. But I don't know about you, but sometimes I can find it a little hard to find that balance. You've got a book due into your publisher, and you have all these other things on the calendar, and it's like, there's a reason my hair is white. Anyway.
Well, and it's one of those, it's a constant balancing act. You've got to be coming up with new ideas. You got to be finishing the old idea. And then you've got to be publicizing the book you turned in like a year and a half ago. And so the next book for you is The Man Next Door. And so let's tell people a little bit about it because it releases the middle of October. So this is a story about a mother and a daughter, and then there's mystery, murder. There's all kinds of things going on. So tell us a little bit about this book.
I know this is such a crazy book. And, people always say, where do you get your ideas? And sometimes it's like they just drop into my head. I don't know if that happens with you, but all of a sudden you think, oh, here's an interesting idea. And, I'm a big fan of classic movies, and especially all those old Alfred Hitchcock classics. A while back, we just rewatched The Birds. Oh my gosh. Now, if I see a bunch of birds on a telephone wire, I'm like, ah. But okay. So I was a big fan of Hitchcock. They have his movies, and one of a favorite happens to be Rear Window. And of course, in the last few years, we have had this abundance of books with the unreliable narrator, the person, are they really telling the truth? Do they really know what's going on? And there's often a surprise ending, and you don't know, and I kind of thought, wouldn't that be fun to kind of do a little update on Rear Window, and what if things aren't quite what they seem? What if your imagination really runs away with you? So we have our daughter who has had to move home with mom because she's newly divorced and broke, and her husband just trashed their finances. He had a little bit of an issue with gambling, and they had loans, they had this, they had that. He robbed their savings for the daughter's college money, and she's just in a mess. So she and mom, fortunately, are good buddies, and so here we are living with mom, and mom is a bit of an idealist and a dreamer and a romantic, and oh my gosh, this new neighbor who has moved in next door, he's pretty good looking, but he's also, there's a little bit of a dark side. What on earth? Oh, he's got a girlfriend. Oh my gosh, we're hearing fighting over there. And oh my gosh, wait, where'd she go? Oh, hey, where's all her stuff? He got rid of her stuff, just like Mr. Thornwald in Rear Window. And oh my gosh, we think he might have done her and buried her in the flower bed. So it's just this crazy, is he or isn't he? And he's got kind of got this edge to him. And so it's just kind of a fun little spoof and send off, and just a fun reimagining of, what happens when you do spy on the neighbors. And I don't know if you ever spied on your neighbor, not like with a spyglass, but just kind of going on over there.
Yeah, well, I think most of us can relate to that, just being curious, and maybe the curiosity goes a little too far. And so I think that's what makes it so much fun, is what happens when it does go too far.
Yeah, how do you get out of that? And can I fall in love with a murderer? I mean, it's just kind of a fun little, I had a really good time writing it. Fortunately, it got a nice review from Publishers Weekly. I know this as an author, you're always like, are they going to hate I love my book. Oh, I hate my book. Oh, this is going to be the book that ruins my career. And you go through this whole little spiral thing that you have to pull yourself out of, because, and the bottom line is sometimes people are going to love your book, and sometimes it's not going to be the one for them. And that's just kind of how it is. It's like cooking in the kitchen. Sometimes you bake this wonderful meal and everybody loves it, and then sometimes the souffle falls. And so as writers, we always hope the souffle isn't going to fall, but you never know, right?
That's so true. I love that analogy. And sometimes when you're writing, you pull different ingredients from the shelf to pull things together.
Yeah.
And other times you pull different ingredients. So you've got over 50 books out. Are all of them like The Man Next Door, or do you write different genres?
I just bottom line is I like to tell a good story. I like to have a good love story in there. And I also like to just deal with other, because as women's fiction writers, especially after a certain age, I mean, my poor husband's been stuck with me for many, many years. And, so it's like, okay, I kind of got that part down, the love and romance, and what else is happening in a woman's life? And so when I'm writing, I like to often do a cast of characters and I like to have multi-generational stories because we're all different ages and we can all learn from each other. And I don't know about you, but I have girlfriends kind of in different generations. And I think that's really fun that way, and I think readers, we're all different ages. And sometimes it's nice to let the older women have a little bit of time on stage. So usually I've got 20 with 20-year-old, 40-year-old, and maybe someone who is retired kind of thing. That often is the case. And I just I like adding in a little of this and that for people. And I think the bottom good line for us as writers is just tell a story people are going to enjoy, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And I think when you have that richer cast of characters than just a romance where it's boy meets girl, girl meets boy, they fall in love, they fall out of love, that's so predictable. So then when you can layer in all these other
Yeah.
things and the multi-generational cast of character adds so much richness to it because there's so much more that can happen. And you definitely have that going on with this book, but doing that in other books then allows just for so much more conflict and so many more opportunities for the story to go in different directions.
I think it's easy to get, well, the saying, there's nothing new under the sun, and that is really true. We just try and tell the same story and maybe put a different spin on it. But it's very easy, especially, romance is such a huge genre, and that's where my roots are. And after a while, it does get a little hard to find something fresh. And I kind of see that sometimes with books coming out. I'm going, oh boy, I'm either old or that's been told, so it's very hard, I think, as writers to come up with something new. And one thing I do love, though, however, is we see a whole generation of women coming up now who are getting into reading, that we've got all the different social media. And I love that. It's, reading is a newly found pastime for a lot of people. And so that's exciting. So it's kind of interesting because as I look around, I think, well, that might be old to me because I'm older than the dinosaurs and I've been reading since dust, and so something that I think is old might be new to a new reader coming on board. So it's just fun to see things cycling and seeing people getting into reading books. And of course, also when you've been around for a while, the goal is to make sure that you're still writing something somebody's going to want to read. You do
Yeah.
have to stay relevant. And if I'm going to still be here as the little white-haired lady, I probably need to make sure that I am knowing what's going on in the world. And well, I'm being a snoopy neighbor.
Yeah.
It pays to be a snoop, and it does pay to have different generations as friends because again, it widens your scope. It just broadens your own horizons. We don't want to live constricted lives. We want to live expanded, great lives.
Absolutely. So when you think about that, what are the things that you do to stay relevant, to stay connected with what's going on? Like I always have headlines pushing to my phone from
I like
different
that.
publications, the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, um, Washington Post, things like that. But I also write books that tend to be like ripped from the headlines. That's kind of what people expect. So I need to be staying on top of that. And it helps with my day job too. But where do you do that? Is it having all these friends from multi generations, kind of paying attention to what people are talking about on social media? What are you doing to go, okay, I know this is going to be relatable. I know this is going to be something that the newer readers are going to like, as well as my long-term readers who've been with me from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. I think part of it, since we write slightly different books, you do need to know what's being ripped from the headlines. You do need to know what the latest mayhem is. And for me,
Yeah.
as I don't do a lot in the world of mayhem, I'd rather stay kind of in the comedy lane and just kind of have a good time. And so for me, it's more what's going on social media. And actually,
Yeah.
God bless you for wanting to do that deep dive into the news. I want to know what's going on, just enough to know what's going on. But I just, I think the happier, the less time I spend watching the news, the happier I am. So
Yeah.
it can be kind of a downer, when you have to keep up with that. But I do love being on all the different social media platforms. I really love Instagram and Facebook. Those are my fave. And I love TikTok. And I just love seeing what everybody's up to. And then again, like I said, really having different friends and being involved, having a life. It's very
Yeah.
easy. I know a lot of writers tend to be introverts. That doesn't happen to be me. I just can only stand so much in my own company, and then I want to get out and do something. And so
Yeah.
I think going out, being with people, being active, having hobbies and interests and places you go, and travel. Again, boy, you learn so much about the world traveling. And the interesting thing, I know I'm doing a little bunny trail hop, hop, hop about traveling, is that sometimes when we are seeing the headlines, we see this big, all the bad stuff that the leaders of the world are doing, and we forget to understand that the leaders aren't always the people, and when you get out and you
Mhm.
travel and you meet the average person, it's really a great chance to really get to know more about that country and to know that bottom line, we're all kind of alike. We all want to raise our kids. We want to be happy. We want to be able to play in our garden. We just and have food on the table. And people are just so much more alike than we realize. And I think
Yeah.
travel is a wonderful way to get to know that. And again, to broaden your horizons. And I realize we can't all afford to travel all the time, but I'm a big believer in saving up for a trip now and then.
Well, and I know for me, it helps fill my creative well. It's like when I start getting to where I'm like, okay, I don't have ideas, I'm kind of getting stuck. I'm like, oh, it's because I haven't left where I live. And I just need to go out and see new things and see what's around the corner. Because there's just a part of me as an extrovert, I'm like, okay, what else is happening? What else is going on? And
So
so
you're an
that's,
extrovert too, then.
oh, very much so.
We're kind of an exception because most
Yeah.
writers just really kind of, please don't make me go to that conference. Please don't make me have to go out and speak in public. And here is us. Where is everybody? Where's the
Yeah,
spot?
exactly. Yeah.
And that is a little rare. And so I would encourage for those, whether you're a reader or a writer, I know that we all have ways we charge our batteries. Obviously, we charge them by sucking the energy out of everybody else. But
Yeah.
and I know an introvert, they need that alone time to charge their batteries. But if you do happen to be an introvert, I would encourage you, you have to be who you are, of course. But encourage you to, once your batteries are charged, just get out there a little bit and explore and expand, because I think that's really, we all, no matter how we're wired, we do need people in our lives, and we do need some things to do to keep our minds fresh. That's my theory anyway. That's Dr.
Yeah.
Sheila's theory.
I love it. As another fellow extrovert, I'm like, yes, yes, that sounds so good. Now, when you think about like you're a writer and you've been a writer for a while, when did you first know you were going to become a writer? Was it something that you kind of stumbled into, or was it something that even as a child and in school, you were like, oh, I'm good at this, and I think this is something I want to do?
Yeah, it was definitely a case of doing things when I was a child. Even when I was little, I would put myself to sleep telling me bedtime stories. I thought that was normal.
Oh,
I was always
oh,
the
that's
hero
so
of my stories,
cute.
usually a lady pirate rescuing the guy. So, that I was quite the hero of my own stories. And so, of course, I was writing little stories when I was a kid, and the poor grade school class was captive audience. The teacher would say, "Oh, Sheila, do you want to read something from your new book?" Which was maybe 2 pages long. But anyway, so it was always a case of writing and doing lit courses in college. And it's pretty hilarious. I wanted to be a songwriter originally, and that didn't end up panning out. I ended up, God kind of went, "Nope, no, you're going to go this way." But so I was probably the world's worst music major. But I took all these lit classes and things. And after we were married, I was writing articles and short stories and all kinds of things. So I was always moving that direction. And the interesting thing about childhood, and I bet if I bet this is the same with you. Probably as a child, you were making up stories too. I think often the tendencies we have as a child show what way we're going to go as an adult. And if our parents can encourage that and develop that, I think it's a good idea as parents to kind of watch, what is my child interested in? What's my child good at? Because you do often end up doing that as an adult. Would you say that's the case with you? Did
Yeah.
you start out as a child writing and making up
Yeah,
stories?
I was an absolutely voracious reader.
Yeah.
I still have a notebook, I think back at my parents' house where I tracked all the books I read, and it
Oh
was like
my,
30
that's
books a
impressive.
month. I mean, it was just crazy. But then I was also writing stories, and I started like really seriously writing as like a 13 and 14-year-old. But then I started college and career and all that, but I kept coming back to it. And but I was 32 and I really started writing for publication. Um, and a year later I got my contract, and so it's kind of crazy how that all happened, but you trace it back and it's kind of one of those almost inevitabilities that it was probably I was going to come back to it at some point, because I was always like, I love books, I just love books. And so by the time I got to writing, it was like, okay, I may not have had the lit classes because I majored in political science, but I knew story, I kind of like had absorbed everything from all the reading I had done.
Political science. That would explain why we're watching the headlines too,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, when I say law school taught me how to write fast and write cleanly, and then reading taught me how to write story.
So you were
And
in
so
law school? Oh my gosh, you're a brilliant woman. Holy moly, that's
well, I worked really hard. I'm a very hard worker. So
well, and I think that's an interesting statement because we're a bit of a culture of instant microwave, poof, I want to be successful. And I was just listening to a podcast where a man named John Maxwell was
mhm.
interviewed. He's a big life coach and inspirational
Yep.
writer. And he was talking about you have to work every day. He said that people who are great are the ones who work, as this is me paraphrasing, but putting in the time. And he said, every day what was it? Every day I write, every day I think. I forgot what the third thing was, but yeah, every day. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what it is. My birthday, Christmas, I just spend a little time. I think I write, and doggone, I wish I would remember what I'll have to go listen
Yeah.
to
Oh,
podcasting.
that's fascinating though. Because
But
and it is true. And that's where I was talking to someone earlier who she writes in bursts. Like she'll like write and get a book done in 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever, and then she won't write. And I'm like, I have to do it like a little bit every day, or the startup costs are just so excessive for me that I'm like, it's better for me if I write a little bit every day, because I can get a chapter done in an hour, hour and a half when I'm in the flow. But if I get out of the flow, it's like these gears are just rusty. And so I
at
much
the time,
prefer,
at the time I'm really in the flow, it's time to get up and make dinner.
yeah,
Like you go, don't check your social media, don't check email, don't do anything, and don't look in the refrigerator. I, I need to make a list of don'ts for writers to stay in the flow. Because once I'm
yeah,
in, boy, I'm in. But sometimes it takes me a little while to walk. I don't know if that's the case with you, to
yeah,
walk into that land. And once you're in there, then you're there. But
yeah. But
sometimes
getting
it can
there,
take a while. Yeah,
yeah, it can be work.
the getting there. Oh, goodness. And you've done quite a bit yourself. I'm looking at all the books you've got coming out. You are definitely not a slacker.
Yeah. The next book will be book 46. So in April, it'll
Good
be
for
book
you. Wow,
46, I think.
you're just booking right along here. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, I mean, trying to keep up with you. So, so when you
Oh,
are writing, how do you write? Is it like hours a day? Do you have a set schedule, or do you do it kind of on a deadline where you're like, okay, now I have to buckle down and do it? How does your writing day go?
I do. I am kind of like John Maxwell. I try to write it every day. I do take Sundays off. Sunday, day of rest. I'm sorry. Monday
Yeah.
can just wait. And I think that's important to build in addition to working hard, building in, playing hard, and then resting well so that
Yeah.
everything stays in balance. So my writing, like I said, I write every day, but it kind of rotates around my social life. Like when we're done here, I've got girlfriends coming over for lunch and cards, and after that, all right. But
That's
so
awesome.
if somebody says, "Hey, let's go to lunch," or "Hey, I'm gonna go play tennis," well, I'm gonna go play tennis because the writing will be there. And I notice though that I always think, "Oh, I'm gonna get this book done early. I'll have time to let it rest, and then I'll come back to it." Never happens that way. And then I do toward the end. I'm like, I have sat on my hindquarters for 8 hours and my butt is asleep. And where's the chocolate? And so,
Yeah.
I try not to fall into that, but it seems to sometimes be the pattern right when you're there, the finish line. It's like, oh, I'm going to have to spend a little more time. But the goal is to just do, 2 or 3 hours a day and have that balance, because
Yeah.
again, as we mentioned earlier, it's not just writing. If I get 2 or 3 hours of writing done, that's good. But now I need to do 2 hours worth of promotion and writing articles and all that kind of stuff because
Yeah.
again, it's how people find out who you are, kind of like, I'm here, I'm here. So it's an interesting balance as a writer. And but of course I probably feel the same way. There's nothing else I'd want to do for a living. So there you have it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so true. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth it, but it's so fun. So, your new book is The Man Next Door. And Sheila, where can people learn more about you and your books? Where can they find you?
Oh, thank you for asking. Well, I'm all over the place. I'm on Facebook, of course, Fun with Sheila. I'm on Instagram, Shelia Roberts Writer, or Fun with Sheila, and on TikTok. Even I'm going for the record as the oldest woman on TikTok. I wonder if I'm going to make that. Anyway, I'm all over the place. My website, sheilasplace.com. You can get a glimpse of the new book there and read an excerpt. And hopefully, people will come and hang out with me on social media. We do a lot of fun things, especially on Sundays, kind of a gathering day where we hang out with different writers and creators. And so, yeah, come hang out with me, and we'll have a fun fall together. And I was just talking with Cara. Hopefully, I'll be getting to have some fun with her in the new year. So we're going to keep that at the back of our minds.
That would be so much fun. Thank you so much for coming and joining me today. And best of luck with The Man Next Door.